The first thing is how you can crack a password for Windows 7 or Windows 10. For that part, there is a trick which you can implement on Windows 10 or both, on Windows 10 and Windows 7, Windows 10, Windows 8.1, Windows 8, whatever it was. But you can try this trick to crack the password or to bypass the password. All you have to do is just go for a file here. In Windows 7, 10, 8, whatever window it was, we have a functionality in Windows for sticky keys. If you press Shift, Control, or Alt, either of these three keys, 5 times, you get this pop-up, those simple sticky key pop-up you can say. What I will do as a hacker, what I can do is I will simply replace the exe for this sticky key with simple cmd. It means whenever I press Shift key 5 times, I'll get a cmd instead of this simple sticky key pop-up. So let's see how you can do this part. So the exe file for this sticky key is located in the directory Windows, and here we have a folder with name system32, and inside this folder we have our file with the name setHC for the sticky keys. So you can search here for setHC, and this is my executable setHC. If you try to delete this file, just right click here and delete. You will not be able to delete the file because this file setHC is owned by a user known as trusted installer. A trusted installer is a user, it is not actually a user, but it has some permissions which can only delete the files which are inside the system32 folder, right? All I have to do is just change the owner of trusted installer to any administrator or any user account. For that, just open the properties in security and the advanced module here. You can see we have our owner as trusted installer. To change the owner, just click on the change, choose your owner from here. Just click on the find button. You can choose any of these user. Right now, I'm going with the administrator. You can go with administrators as well. Click on OK, OK, and this will implement your changes. Right? All you have to do is just go for the properties again, go for the securities. After this, you have to modify the permissions. As you can see, we don't have permission for all the actions. For modification, we don't have permission here, right? I can see I don't have the modification permission for the administrator as well. To modify the permission, just click on this edit button here and just choose all the permissions. Full control, administrator, and just apply these changes. And now I can modify the file. What I can do, I can simply delete the file, I can rename the file, I can modify the name to modify the file as well. So right now I'm just going to change the name from setHC to setHC123. Simple. Because I don't want to delete this file. Just press enter and you can rename this file. Right? If I press the shift key 5 times, there is no activity. Right? There is no pop-up for the sticky keys. The point here is I'll simply search for the CMD. You can see the control command terminal, you can say this one. I'm searching for this CMD, but as an admin privileges. For that part, I'm simply searching for CMD or system32 folder, and here is my exe file, system32 exe CMD. Right. So what I will do, I'll simply create a copy. Just copy this one and get back to the directory actually, system32 folder, and all you have to do is just paste this file. After this, just rename the file with simple setHC. Right. This is the file which was executed when I pressed Shift key 5 times. So you can say when you press the Control key or the Alt key 5 times. So as soon as you replace this one, all the functionalities for the CMD, for the sticky keys, are gone to the sticky keys setHC file. If I press the Shift key 5 times, I get a CMD here with admin privilege, as you can see. In Windows, if you are an admin user, you get a terminal with this name, with this directory, C Windows System 32. If you are an admin user, if you are a simple user, then you get a terminal with this simple C user and the username at last. You can use a bootable pen drive as well, right? If you use a bootable pen drive, in that bootable pen drive, you can go for system repair part, and there you have an option for CMD for terminal. To the terminal, you can modify these files and just reboot the system. Hello, have you gone through the Vault 7 release?
No.
Okay. After the release of Vault 7, we have a proper public exploit for Windows 7 specifically. That was Eternal Blue. Eternal Blue was an exploit for SMB version 1, which Windows 7 was actually using, right? And we have proper exploit, proper payload, proper vulnerability for Windows 7. So you can use this exploit Eternal Blue with the help of this tool, Metasploit Framework, MSF. Just search for here, the exploit here, search Eternal Blue, and you get 2 auxiliaries and 3 exploits for all different versions. You can use explore, you can use auxiliaries to verify the target is vulnerable or not, and you can use auxiliary to scan the target for vulnerability part as well. To exploit the machine, to get access to that machine, you can use the exploit part. So right now I'm just going to use this one, the first one here. To use this exploit, all you have to do is use the command use and the exploit name here, right? This exploit has a payload, so pre-configured here, Windows/64 Meterpreter and reverse TCP. To modify the options, to modify or to enter your victim's IP address, just write the command show options to see what options you have to configure here, right? All the required fields we have here are configured or should be configured by you. It depends. Is it pre-configured or you have to configure, right? The value for the R host is not pre-configured, so you have to configure this part or you have to enter the IP address manually. To enter the IP address or to set the R host value, just write the command here, set R hosts and the IP address for the victim's machine. Right now, I don't know the IP address for Windows 7 machine. So how you can identify Windows 7 machine's IP address?
And all the Windows and IPs in our network in VMware.
Like ARPScan is not specific to Windows 7. So if I identify all the active machines in my network, it could be Windows 7, it could be Linux, it could be Windows 10.
Okay.
It's not specific to Windows 7. If you remember our networking sessions, in that class, we discussed about ARPScan, how it works, and we have discussed other methods through which you can identify the active
Okay.
machine in a network.
For this ARP scan, we will find all the active sessions.
Yeah, through the ARPScan, you identify all the active sessions or active machines in your network, which
Okay,
are
but we
currently
don't
active.
know which one is the Windows 7.
Yeah,
We will try to boot force here with going all the one by one IP.
you can try one by one, or you can try simple ping. But with the help of simple ping, you get detail value for both because both are simple Windows machines. Detail value is same for the both. You can try Nmap with hyphen capital O option as well to identify the operating system. It's Windows 10, Windows 7. You can go for this part, right? Or you can use auxiliaries. Just to show you how you can use auxiliaries, I'm using for both of them. If you want, we can use hyphen O option for Nmap. So let's just use this one. Root privileges. So we have an OS Windows 7 Service Pack 0, Service Pack 1 for this IP address 131. Let's try this one on 132. First detection part, Windows 10, 17.0, 1709 to 1909, right? So you can use the Nmap with hyphen capital O option to identify the operating system. So right now I know the IP address for my victim's machine that was 131. to just simply set the IP address with this command set rhost, and the IP address it was 1.1.1.131, right?
Okay, Siddharth. Yeah, Siddharth, but why the last one is giving so many Windows versions using a comma separated? Well, this one, Windows 7, Windows Server 8. Yeah, this part. Why it is giving more values?
Just because Nmap is not sure about the operating system, but you can get a hint. You will get a hint. It was Windows 7, Windows Server 8, 2008 to Windows 8.1, right?
Okay, okay,
It could be one of them.
okay. Fine, fine. Fine.
It could be one of them. So I hope you can configure these values. You just have to set the rhost value, your remote victim's machine IP address, right? So all you have to do is just send the payload to the victim's machine. For that part, you can use two commands here. First one is run, simple, to send the payload and or to exploit the machine. Second one is you can write the exploit here. Both the commands are same. You can use any one of them. Here we have two types of payload in MSF. We can go with. We just show you the payloads. In MSF, we can say Metasploit framework. In anywhere, we have two types of payload. First one is inline payloads. Second one is stager payloads. Right? Stager payloads are sent in fragmented portions. A payload will be divided into multiple sub payloads, means multiple divided into sub packets, and then it will be forwarded, right? But in stager part, but in inline part, all the payload was executed in a single go. You send all the payload, you send the complete payload in a single go, or try to execute the complete payload in a single time. But in case of stagers, to divide the payload, we execute the payload in multiple stages, right? So here for this eternal blue, I'm using a stager payload. That's one thing. And you can see we have a session opened between my own machine that was at 128 IP address, and the port number was 4444, and between the victim's machine at 131 on port number 49159, right? And I get a session here. In Meterpreter, we have two kinds of session. First one is Meterpreter simple. Second one is simple bind shell or simple reverse shell, but a simple shell, right? If you get a Meterpreter, then you can execute both the commands for Linux and for Windows. If you get a shell, you can only execute commands for Windows machine or for Linux machine. It depends what was the operating system for that accused machine. But if you have a Meterpreter session, you can execute command for both of those, for Windows or for Linux both. If I write a command ls here, I get a list of directories. And if I write the command dir here,
Siddharth, how to open this
for
meter printer?
the Meterpreter is a simple connection between your machine and victim's machine.
Actually, we have given a command like exploit. Then we have a set of things which it is telling that whether vulnerability, what are the things aligned to the particular machines. But after that, how we have entered into this? Yeah, exploit. Here it is exploited. It is telling something. Connection was exploit.
Using auxiliary to verify the machine was vulnerable or not, right?
Okay.
Host is likely vulnerable with this
Okay.
MS17010. That was the name of the exploit. You can call it
Okay.
MS17010 as you can see it here as well,
Yes, 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 yes. Yeah, yeah.
right?
Mm,
It
mm,
was a
mm.
simple name. Then connection to target for exploitation, sending the buffer, core raw dump part, 38 bytes. It was a simple payload for Windows 7 machine.
Okay.
Target IP
One.
picture. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Before doing that, we need to set which IP we are going to target. Then set our host will connect to the particular IP. Then we can start the exploit command. Then it will enter into the Meterpreter, where there we can upload the payload, which will do some kind of what we call some vulnerability in this mission.
And you when you enter the command exploit, this will automatically send the payload, automatically make a connection with the machine if the machine is vulnerable.
Okay.
You don't have to send the payload manually. It will automatically send the payload, right?
Okay. Means so what is the option that if I have a custom payload with me, how can I send the custom payload to the particular R host?
You can specify your custom payload as well. Just give me 5 minutes after this Metaprater part, after this Eternal Blue. We'll come to that part as well.
Sure, sure,
I'll
sure.
show you
Yeah.
how you can create your own custom exploit, how you can create your own custom payload,
Okay.
right?
Okay. For this one,
I'm
there
coming
is
to
a
that
set
part.
of. Okay. For this one, there is a set of predefined payloads which will grab some kind of information for the particular mission, which may be useful. That's it,
Yeah,
right? Okay.
yes. This is predefined payload, predefined by vulnerability for Windows 7, right? So if you have gone through the Vault 7 release, you better understand the vulnerability. By assembly version 1, why it's known as Eternal Blue, right? You can relate this thing in a better way. This is simple. This machine, or you can say this tool, Metasploit framework is sending some payload to the machine, and after executing that payload, we get a connection with this machine. And this connection was known as Metaprater. We have two kind of connections. First one is Metaprater, second one is simple shell. In shell, you get a terminal for Windows. If I show you here, in shell, you get this one. If it's a normal user, if it's an admin user, we get a proper admin shell with C Windows System 32. This one. If you don't like this one, if you don't like the Metaprater, you can convert this Metaprater into shell as well. For that part, all you have to do is write shell and press enter. This will get you the actual CMD terminal, you can say. But the point is, if you get the actual terminal for a Windows, you can only execute Windows command. My ls command will not work here. My dir will work. My ls command will not work here. Right? To shift back to the Metaprater, just write the exit command and you get Metaprater back. To see what commands you can execute with the Metaprater, just write the command here help. If you don't know what you can do, you can use the help. You can use question mark as well. Both will do the same thing. You can see we have multiple commands for multiple functionalities. You can use you can use any of these commands, right? So you can try these commands. They have multiple functionalities. You can try these by your own. Another point is that coming back to your question, how you can create your own custom payload, right? That was the thing. So right now I'm not closing this session, just creating a new tab here. To create your own custom exploit, all you have to do is use a tool that was MSF Venom, right? MSF Venom is just a part of Metasploit framework through which you use some predefined payloads to create an executable for that payload. So all you have to do is just create an exe file for that payload, send it to the victim, and as soon as the victim execute that file, you will get a connection back. It's that simple. So let's see how you can create your own executable for the proper payload for Windows 7, Windows 10, for both of them, right? So I'm using few options here. Let's go with the help page first. What options I'm going to use here? I'm using -p specify my payload, my pre-written script for the machine, how I can exploit the machine or how I will get a reverse connection for that machine. Second one is -f, specify the format. I'm creating my executable file for Windows, for mobile, for PDF part, for RAR file, for binary file, for PHP. Use this -f option to specify the format of that exploit, right? Other than this, you can use -e or as well for encoding. If you want to encode your payload, you want to encode your exploit, then you can use -e. You can use -a to specify the architecture of the machine. If it's core-based operating system or it's 32-bit operating system. That's the part. You can use -small o for output file, or you can use angular bracket as well. You can use this greater than angular bracket for the output file, right? After this, you can use hyphen small b for bad characters. There are some hex values you can say which are not executable in my kernel. If I give you an example, you can go with this one, /x00. This is a null byte, right? So null values are not executable in my kernel. I have to specify what hex values are not executable by my kernel. So with help of this option hyphen small b, you can avoid these values from your payload. You can remove these values from your payload. After this, you can use hyphen small n as a knob select. If you want to bypass a prevention method, right? If you want to bypass the padding part, then you can use hyphen small n. You can use these options as well, hyphen s for a space for resulting payload, or the maximum size of your payload or the exploit, whatever you are creating. You can use hyphen I for iteration. If you want to encode your system, encode your exploit multiple times, then for that you can use hyphen I. You can use hyphen C to add the code. You can use hyphen X as a template if you want to bind your exploit, your payload with some other file. For that you can use hyphen X. If you want to keep the working of that file same, for that you can use hyphen K option. You can use hyphen B for variable names, right? You can use hyphen T for timestamp and hyphen H for the help save. Right now, I'm going to use only few of them. The first one is hyphen P, hyphen F, and that's all. Let's go with that part. Just write the command msf venom hyphen P. Another point is I don't know what payload I have to use. For that, just come back to the msf here and search for Windows. Windows and just press enter. Here you can see we have multiple modules. I have some post, I have some payload values, and above this one, I have some exploits as well, as you can see, and we have auxiliaries as well, right? So we only need some payloads. What I'm gonna use is a simple payload which I have used here. If you just scroll on the top, I'm gonna use the same payload because this the payload was just for reverse connection. You can use the same payload as well. Windows x64 Meterpreter and reverse TCP. If you want a Meterpreter connection, you can use Meterpreter. If you want a proper shell, then you can use bind shell as well. So just search for this part. And this is my payload. Let's one more. Let's use this one. Simple payload for Windows, Meterpreter and reverse TCP. Right? Because I want a Meterpreter. Meterpreter has more functionalities. So I'm just copying this payload and paste the payload here with MSF Venom option and just paste the payload. Another point is the thing you have to keep in mind is just remove this word payload from the beginning of that payload part. After this, if you are using a payload for reverse connection, you have to specify where the machine will send the reverse connection request. Right? In reverse connection, your victim's machine will initiate a connection request. For that, machine should know where I have to send a request for connection. It means your victim's machine should know your attacker's IP address, right? For that, I'm using an option here, lhost, to specify attacker's IP address for reverse connection. So let's go with the IPF config here to identify your own IP address. And this is my IP address 1.1.1.1.128. Just paste the value here with lhost. After lhost, at what port request will be forwarded to the victim's machine. For that, I'm using an option lport. You can use any port number here other than reserved ports. So you can go with 888, 4888, it's up to you, right? MSF, or you can say Metasploit framework, is using a port number 4444 by default. If you want to go with the default port, just enter the default port here, 4444. If If you don't want to go with the default port, you can write your own port number as well. Let's go with 4565, right? After this, I have to specify the format of the payload. For that part, I'm using option -F. I want a proper executable file, exe. For output, you can use -o, or you can use angular bracket as well. Both will do the same thing. So I'm saving this file for the exploit system directory root. Let's go with some home, user, desktop, and the file name. Let's go with malware. Simple. You can say hack.exe. That's it. Press enter, and this will create an exe file for you. After this, all you have to do is just send that exe or the executable to your victim's machine. You can see we have executable here, the name hack.exe. It was Windows executable, right? All you have to do is send this exe to the victim's machine. For that, right now, I'm using an option that was simple Python server. To create a Python server, just write a command Python -m simple HTTP server at port number 80. You can change the port number if you want. I'm using the default port 80. You can use any port number, whatever you like. It's up to you. Right, so as you press
Siddharth,
enter, this will create,
Siddharth,
yes,
for
sir.
Venom, right?
Yes,
Either
MSF
it can,
Venom.
yeah, MSF Venom. Either it can create a local means actually we are using lhost here. Means we are specifying the machine IP where we are going to generate the exe file, right?
Nope. Lhost value is for the reverse connection.
Okay, okay.
Suppose,
All these
suppose
things. Okay.
you are the victim, right?
Mm,
And I'm the
mm,
attacker.
mm.
To send a letter to me, you should know my address. For that part,
Got it,
I'm
got it, got it.
that
Yeah,
part I'm
what
using
happened is,
Lhost
yeah,
value.
yeah, I'm confused that maybe for this lhost now, maybe it
Yeah,
is there we are going to generate this exe. But what happened is for this 128, we are going to get a reverse connection where this payload is happening, right? For
yeah,
that machine, that 128 is getting connected in reverse.
yes.
Okay.
I got a connection request on 128 from victim's machine. So you can say
Okay.
victim's machine send a connection request to 128.
Okay. What is the victim's machine IP? 1.1.131, right?
I don't know it. It could be
Okay.
anything, but
Okay.
I know my own IP address.
Okay. Okay.
Right? My victim's address could be anything.
Yeah.
Could be in the
Anything.
same network. It could be
Mm.
any different network as well.
Yeah, yeah, we
Just because
identified
I don't.
either
Yeah, sorry.
131, right?
I don't know the IP address. I don't have to know the IP address.
Then which victim machine we are going to send this payload? At
I'll show
random.
you. Just give me a minute.
Okay.
To send the file, you can use email. You can use emails to send the file. You can use pen drives to send the file to victim's machine. It depends how you send the file, right? For that, you don't have to know the IP address of a victim's machine. You can send it to anything. You can say you can
Okay.
simply upload the exe file over a website with a name like Windows Update or VLC, like free VLC, free Netflix, right? You can upload this exe file with this name. As soon as your victim download the file and execute that file, you will get a reverse connection. That was the thing. As soon as your victim download the file and execute the file, you will get a reverse connection. You can upload the file over a server. You can upload the file over a website. You can send it through emails. You can send it through pen drives. It's up to you how you send the exe file to victim's machine, right? So you can send this file as Netflix, free Amazon Prime, or Windows free update, or crack version for this one, crack version for that one. Just rename the file. All you have to do is rename the file and send it to victim, right? Victim will download the file and execute the file. And as soon as it executes the file, you get a connection for Windows machine, for your victim's machine, right? Just because I know the victim right now, I'm only using a simple Python server to send this exe file to my victim's machine. and I'm in the VMware just to go. So all I have to do is just suppose there is a website hosted on my this machine, on my Kali Linux, right? At IP address 128. As soon as my victim open my website, he can see a file. Let it open. Let's try on Windows 7 as well. Yeah, I can see all the directories in my machine, right? I can see the directories here, where it is in this tab. I can see directories with this name desktop, downloads, documents, Git, music, picture. We have multiple folders here, right? And I know I have a exe file in my desktop with the name hack.exe. As soon as your victim execute this file, you get a reverse connection.
Okay, once he clicks on OK, and means what happened is here he downloaded the file, right?
If
Okay,
we downloaded the
downloading.
file,
Okay, okay,
we download the file and execute that file, right?
okay, okay.
He
Mm-hmm.
his machine was completely compromised, you can say.
Okay.
So let me just modify few setting. I'm just turning off the Defender for a few minutes so I can download this file. My Defender.
Actually, I'm worried that if downloading itself is giving some kind of a information to the hacker, na, then it is very difficult, right? Okay. After
That was,
downloading, we need to run that. Then it is.
yeah, we have to run this file.
Okay.
In older version of this browser, you can
Mm-hmm.
hijack a browser with simple URLs. In older
Okay.
versions, you can hijack a URL, entire browser.
Okay.
You can hijack the complete browser with a simple URL. It's something like this one. So
Mm-hmm.
let's suppose this is my IP address 128, and after this one, I have some script through which I can hijack your entire browser. I can see what you are doing, what websites you are visiting. I can visit your customized websites as well. I can forward you to specific websites as well. I can
Okay.
give you some pop-ups. I can download any file in your machine. That's the part. But
In
that
the
was happening for only older versions for these browsers.
on the Edge or all the other browsers as well.
On any browser, it
Okay.
could be Edge,
Okay.
it could be Firefox, it could be Chrome,
Okay.
whatever.
Got it.
But
Got it. Got
only
it.
for older versions.
Mm-hmm.
So I have my file here. Now the point is, before executing this file, coming back to your question, how I will listen for that. So if you are using a custom payload, if you are using a custom exe file, for that we have an option in the Metasploit framework that was multi-handler. Just write the command use multi-handler here, right?
Mm-hmm.
The point is multi-handler use this default payload, generic slash shell underscore reverse dot TCP, right? If you want to specify your custom payload, then you can specify as well. Just use the command set payload, your payload name. That was simple Windows matter operator reverse underscore TCP. It was my simple payload. Let's verify from here. You can copy the payload from here and just paste the payload. You can do the same thing, right? After entering your payload, you have to specify same values like lhost, lport, both the values. So to set the values or to see what values you have to configure here, Just use the same command, show options. You can see we have to specify lhost value, and lport value was pre-configured as 4444. But in our payload, in our exploit, in our customer exploit, I'm using a lport value as 4565, right? For both the part in my custom payload and in my multi-handler. My lport value should be same. My lhost value should be same, right? To set the lhost value, just use the same command, set lhost and your IP address. To set lport, use the same command, lport and the IP address. It's 128. Just press enter.
Yeah, we need to get the port number right here. Set L port.
Okay, sorry, my bad. So 4565 and just press enter. So if I show you what options are configured, you can see lhost value as my own IP address for listening purpose. This multi-handler will simply create a listener on my machine. If there is a reverse connection request for my machine or to my machine, right? For that, I am opening a listener on this
Is
port number
okay.
4565.
On the
On my
multi-handler
own,
option. Okay.
yeah. With this multi-handler option, I am creating a listener for the reverse connection request. For connection request. To exploit this one or to use this multi-handler, just use the same command, run, or you can use exploit, whatever you like. Both will do the same thing. Right now, I'm using the run command, and this will start a listener on my machines on IP address 1.1.1.128 and port number 4565. Right? As soon as your victim execute this file, so one, you will get a connection here. Metaperator session one opened between
Okay.
these machines, right? But the point here is, if you write a command here in your previous session, so the session for Eternal Blue in this tab, and on the other tab, in my second tab, I have connected to my custom payload. Right? I'm using two commands in both these tabs. First one is uname. Let's go with who am I first. Who am I is not working, not an issue. Let's go with uname. What happened? Session was terminated. Just give me a minute. Let me just do it again. Uname hyphen a ID. No. Who am I? Not working. Not an issue. Let's go back to shell. I get a proper admin shell here with the name C Windows System 32. It means I'm an admin user. If I'm exploiting a machine with this Eternal Blue, right? If I'm exploiting a machine with my own custom payload, and if I go into the shell here, I get a simple admin shell. So you can say simple user shell. For my custom payload, I get a simple user shell. And with this Eternal Blue, I get an admin shell here. Means you have permissions for almost everything. And with this one, with the custom payloads, you have permission only specified to the custom user.
Why it is like that, Siddhar? The things which we have there in the predefined payload also, we are trying to forcing the other means the victim's mission to get all the admin rights. But if we are generating any payload, the thing will be the same, na? Actually, it is a
No, no,
predefined.
no, 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 no. Things were
Okay.
completely different. Things were completely different. Your vulnerability, Eternal Blue,
Hmm.
SMB version 1, was a
Mm-hmm.
proper buffer overflow attack, right? In buffer overflow, you always get an admin access. In buffer overflow, you always get admin access. Always keep
Okay.
it in mind.
Mm-hmm.
But in your custom payload, it depends which user execute that file.
Okay, okay. If it is
That's the
admin
point
right,
here.
we will get the admin.
We get the admin. If there is a buffer overflow attack for any operating system, for any simple exe file, for any application, suppose if you are using VLC media player, right? and
Yeah.
I have a buffer overflow vulnerability for VLC Media Player.
Okay.
If you are using VLC Media Player as a normal user, even then, with the help or simply by exploiting the buffer overflow vulnerability for VLC Media Player, I get
Hmm.
a proper admin shell. Before
Okay.
buffer overflow always give you admin shell because it's a kernel level part,
Okay.
right? But if you are using a custom payload, it depends which user execute that simple malicious file. It depends.
Okay. Okay.
That's the thing here.
Okay. What is that buffer overflow? Actually, we don't know that.
Uh, Buffer overflow is a huge topic, sir. For that part, we need at least 4 hours for complete discussion. But I will give you a simple brief overview,
Okay.
simple, a simple, you can say, overview of that buffer overflow.
Okay. Fine.
Suppose, let's go with a simple example here.
Hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
opening Notepad here again. I hope you can see my Notepad. Hello.
Yes. Yes. I can see you. I
Okay.
can see this.
Suppose you write a program in which you are taking some input from a user. Let's go with something like mobile number, right? You are taking input from mobile numbers and you give it size of 10 characters, right? When this program was executing, at that part, our system will assign some buffer memory to to that application, to that exe file, to that executable. Right? We have some fixed buffer size for that mobile number. Only 10
Okay.
characters, it means buffer size will only take 10 characters here.
Okay.
What happened in buffer overflow? I exceed that limit from 10 to 15. It could be 15, it could be 11 as
Mm-hmm.
well. I
Mm-hmm.
simply exceed that buffer size,
Mm-hmm.
and as soon as the buffer fill,
Mm-hmm.
right? As soon as the buffer will fill itself, buffer will flush. Suppose in my actual machines, I have a buffer size of around 55 KB, 5 MB, whatever it would say. Let's go with the characters. Let's say my buffer can take 1000 characters, right? And
Okay.
from this 1000 characters, 10 characters are taken from my mobile number part. We have 990 left,
Okay.
right? If
Okay.
I forward the 990 characters as a junk, I send 990 times A, right? My buffer will fill in the situation. But for this kind of situation, when my buffer is completely filled, right? My buffer has a functionality. It will flush itself, and as soon as the 101th character, the character at this position 1001,
Mm.
or after this 1000 characters,
Okay.
character at 1001 will be executed. That was the point here. What attackers do, they identify the buffer size, they send the junk to fill the buffer, and as soon
Okay.
as the buffer flush itself, they send the payload.
Got it. Got it. Yeah.
That's what happening here.
Okay.
And
How these people are identifying the buffer size? Using some kind of nmap, some tools,
no,
right?
no, no, we have some debuggers here at the for that buffer overflow attack. You can say, suppose I'm identifying some buffer overflow for Firefox, right? What I will do, I will use some debuggers. For Windows, you can go with Immunity, you can go with Oli. We have multiple debuggers. In Linux, we have, I think Linux का अलग आता है. We have different debuggers, but we have Immunity as well for the Linux. You can use Immunity as well. We have Grida, I think, for Linux. The point is, yeah, this is the debugger. You can use these debuggers. What happen when a application is in executable state? You can copy the executable state of that machine or that exe file inside the debugger, and you can examine the assembly code, assembly functionality, that exe file, right? Just by sending some kind of junk. Suppose I don't know the buffer size. What I will do, I will send a pre-customized size of a, you can say, payload, the simple junk. I'll send a junk which is which is customized, which has a specified pattern like 4565. After this 78981232. This kind of junk was sent to the machine. We have some registers in the every machine. and that part was EIP or EBP, you can registers. Right? As soon as the buffer fill itself, this will take the, you can say, how I will say, suppose I send a chunk of around 150,000, not 150,000, around 1050 characters, right? After 1000, buffer will flush itself, and only those 50 characters are in that buffer, right? I will analyze the first character. You can say the 51st character. The 51, the first character inside that buffer, right? And I will analyze the pattern. Like what was the number of that character inside this specified pattern. For every buffer overflow, you get a admin privilege access. You can say you always get an admin shell for buffer overflow, and it depends what user or which user execute your file for your custom payloads. I hope it's clear why we get only an admin shell here, and why we get an admin
Yes,
shell
yes,
here,
Siddharth. Yeah, got
and
it,
why a
got it.
simple user shell here.